Don't mock. I'm not a fool. And people who know me personally know that I am not a fool. But I won't get into the details of those. I just want people to realize that I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool.
Hey there, it's Coach Curl here, and welcome to Leadership Lessons. And today I'm going to be talking about blind spots. Now, everyone has blind spots, and as a leader, this can be incredibly damaging to you. We all have them, and the Johari window was one of the very first bits of theory that I had read in relation to blind spots. But it's also one that the concept of blind spots is one that also becomes evident when you start working with things like DISC personality profiles or behavioural assessments. So blind spots are really critical for you as a leader to be aware of so that you can fix them. Because you may have blind spots that you're not aware of that are holding you back in your career or your business development. Now, when we look at what the definition of a blind spot is, it's information about ourselves that others know in a group, but you will be unaware of. Others may interpret yourself differently than what you expect. The blind spot is reduces efficient communication. The blind spot can be reduced by efficient communication by yourself when you seek feedback in and around what the blind spot is. Now, we all have blind spots, and it's imperative that as leaders, as business owners, that we get some feedback mechanisms in place so that we can work through what those blind spots may be. Now, Marissa Lewin identifies potential blind spots that you may have. So let's go through a couple of these. A blind spot may be something like going it alone. So we're afraid to ask for help. And we often see this with a lot of business owners and a lot of leaders who don't necessarily or fear putting their hand up for help. So they go it alone. And that's a blind spot because ultimately they might not even be aware of their inner workings that are creating that need for them to continue to go alone. What about being insensitive of your behaviours on other people? So being unaware of how other people see you. Some people are blissfully unaware of how other people see them. So what's the Tony experience like? What's it like being around me? What's it like being around you? Having an I know attitude is another blind spot. Valuing the fact that you have to be right above everything else. Avoiding difficult conversations, another blind spot. Now, we may make excuses into why that difficult conversation may not be taking place, but ultimately it could be a blind spot as to why it's not taking place. There may be some innate behaviours within yourself that is definitely creating that blind spot of avoiding difficult conversations. Blaming others or circumstances, playing the victim, that could be a blind spot. Refusing to take responsibility for mistakes, errors, could be a blind spot. Treating commitments casually, so not honouring the other person's time, energy and resources, that's a huge blind spot. And we see that a lot in business-to-business communication, business-to-business meetings where if you've got a coach, if you've got a mentor, or if you're catching up with someone in relation to a project, honour that person's time and make sure you're prepared. But it could be a blind spot because you may be treating the commitment too casually. Conspiring against others, so you're driven by a personal agenda. Withholding emotional commitments, so that whole concept of emotional blackmail. And we see that right throughout the business community, unfortunately. Not taking a stand, so we may not have a commitment. We may not commit to taking a position. And another blind spot, and the final one that we'll talk about, is tolerating that good enough is near enough scenario. So they're all potential blind spots, as Marissa Lewin, a leadership writer, wrote about. And now the key here for you as a leader or you as a business owner is to really understand what's the strategy that I can have that A, I can identify my blind spots, and B, I've got capacity or the ability to be able to work with and through them, so that I can create a strategy that's going to help me not just identify the blind spot, to work through and improve it. And the first step here, I'm only going to give you 3. I only ever give you 3 during a leadership lesson. 3 ways that you can do this. One is really develop your feedback mechanisms, your feedback processes. Get trusted people that will give you the feedback that you require, and be really specific in relation to it. Don't overwhelm yourself with getting the list of the top 50 things wrong with you. That's not help you, unfortunately. But, focus maybe on one thing at a time, 2 things at a time. What's the biggest blind spot that's holding you back? And then start working through that. So what is it that others know about me that I should know, would be one of those questions that I'd be asking someone that I trust. Surround yourself and be a diverse thinker. Now, this is incredibly important in a world where it's just you're either on that side or you're on that side. And if you're on that side, you don't like the people who think like that. Or if you're on that side, you don't like the people that... We have to become diverse in the way that we think. And we have to be able to look at both sides of the argument or the discussion, or both sides of the fact. So we've got to be able to look at it through different perspectives, get another lens and have a look at it. So don't pigeonhole yourself with a binary thought process. Be diverse, look at both sides, be creative and check both sides of the story, because can I tell you, there's always another side to the story. And the final tip just for you is to get a buddy, a blind spot buddy, if you may, to help keep you accountable. Those are the 3 tips. So get your feedback processes in place with trusted people and be really specific around that feedback that you chase. Be and surround yourself with diverse thinkers so that you're not just following one line of thought, that you're actually actively looking at every aspect around a story. And then get a blind spot buddy to help keep you accountable. Blind spots, we all have them. And as a business leader, it's imperative that you are having a process where you're identifying those blind spots and you're working through them. I'm Coach Curl. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you all again next week. Bye for now.
Don't mock. I'm not a fool. And people who know me personally know that I am not a fool. But I won't get into the details of those. I just want people to realize that I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool.